Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Treaty LPC, and thank you for tuning into this week's episode of the Self-Aware and Heartfelt podcast. When I tell you guys, I am really, really excited to speak with this guest today, and I really, really appreciate her making accommodations so that we can make this happen. It's really been a long time coming, and I can't wait for you guys to hear a little bit more about her story. Her name is Michelle Gordon. She is a registered nurse operating in Australia. We've had quite a few guests from Australia on our season this season, and I'm really, really happy that we're continuing to connect with people and having more people from around the world on this podcast because we are trying to reach the masses. So thank you so much for continuing to listen and support. So Michelle Gordon, she is a registered nurse. She's also the founder of Healthy Happy Nurse. I'm going to say that again, Healthy Happy Nurse. And she helps nurses create work-life balance and a happy, healthy balance of being able to manage the stresses that come with being in the nursing field. So I can't wait for her to share more about herself and her journey and what led her to creating her organization and just learning a little bit more about her. So without further ado, please welcome to the Self-Aware and Heartfelt podcast, Michelle Gordon. Hey, Michelle, how's it going today?
Hello. I'm so good. Thank you. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
I am really excited to have you. I know we had some scheduling stuff and I was I was bummed when you had to cancel, but I was really happy that we were able to get it right back on track. So I'm really, really grateful that you were able to make the time in your schedule for me today. So we can go ahead and actually get started by having you tell the audience a little bit about Michelle.
Yeah. So nurse of 26 years this year, mum of 3 children, and I live in the beautiful sunny state of Australia in Queensland by the beach.
Okay.
I'm a surf lifesaver as well, so I do some surf lifesaving, and I love the outdoors. I love being active, and so that's a bit about me. But I've definitely had my fair share of rock bottom moments, and this is the era of me and really fully embracing life. A few years ago, I was not in a great state and burnt out, alcoholic, and suffered debilitating anxiety. So now's my time. Yeah.
Wow. You have such an amazing story, and I definitely want to dive a little bit more into it. But when you said 3 kids, I was like, okay, you don't look old enough to have 3 kids, but okay. But no.
Yes, I am that old.
Well, we definitely need some different, whatever kind of water y'all have over in Australia, we need some of that to be imported to the States because, but amazing. But you said you hit your rock bottom. And I know that part of your journey, was that burnout piece. And a lot of people deal with that. What was it like for you? Can you tell us a little bit about what was going on that had you so burnt out? I mean, I know the medical field is its own beefs, but what was your experience like with the burnout?
Yeah. So this was between the year of 2016 to 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband had just started his own business. We had a little 1-year-old at the time. So my youngest was 1. And I, being a nurse, I've always, had very deep conditioning and very, my belief back then was you have to work really, really hard to get by. And when things were going, when things were tough or uncertain, my default pattern was I'm just going to work harder. And because my husband was just starting his business, he had no income. So I was like, it's all good. I'll dig in and I'll just push through and work. So I was working up to 7 shifts a week in the emergency department.
Wow.
And I was in, a high-paced environment, lots of adrenaline, lots of stress, lots of overtime shift, lots of, long days, long nights. And I started to notice that, I was, my default was, yes, push through, it'll be okay. Just do more.
Mm.
And over that course of 2 years, I started to detach. I started to disconnect. I stopped doing the things that I loved. I stopped looking after myself. I started drinking to counteract the stress. I was drinking lots of caffeine during the day to keep me going, and then drinking the wine at night to combat, come down off a stressful day. And yeah, after 2 years of sort of that cycle, my health deteriorated, my mental health, my physical health, and I hit rock bottom, and it was a really, really dark place. And for some of that time, I did try and get some help, and the services here where I live were quite limited back then. And I just, nothing was working or making that change. I was still going home and still running those same habits, if you like. And then I had probably 2 really rock bottom moments where I literally was, collapsed and on the floor. And that was when I went, it's time to make a change. What really was the driver of that change was my children were little back then. My 2 boys were probably 10 and 8, and they were watching this whole, this whole thing play out. And my little girl, who was 2, 3 years old, and I just, I had to change, because I saw that they were watching me and thinking that this was a normal way of being and a normal way to do life, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, that definitely had to be really tough. It sounds like you took on so much, obviously, for a good purpose, so your husband could start his business. And then it sounds like it just spiraled out of control, and just couldn't keep up with the stress and the alcohol and kind of balancing that out. And a lot of people do kind of lean into substances to kind of combat the anxiety, because you want to do something to kind of take the edge off. And for you, when you got help, what did the help look like? Was it, therapy, or what?
Yeah.
What did it look like for you?
Yeah. So my workplace, the public health system here in Australia, most of the health organisations do offer like an employee assistance thing, which is like a counselling. You get 6 counselling sessions. It's probably changed since I went through that, and it was just talking, which is great, and I think it's a great modality, and it's a great form of support and help. It didn't work for me. I was so numb and so dissociated, meaning that I was physically there, but my mind was a million miles away. I was so disconnected. So I was just sitting there like this numb human being, talking, but I wasn't feeling, I wasn't computing, I wasn't integrating anything. And after, I think I tried 2 rounds of that sort of support, and in my rock bottom moment, I realized that I had to do something different, and I found a coach, and I worked with a coach for 3 months, and I had some quite profound shifts. And then I re-engaged with another coach, and I just started to really transform. It was like rewiring my brain and coming back to myself again, which was an incredible journey. So,
Yeah, it sounds like it was definitely impactful for you. And I mean, I think that's a good point to kind of bring up. Sometimes talk therapy works. I think there are so many layers to it because you have to have the right fit, you have to have the right modality, and it has to be something that kind of works for you. What do you think it was about the coaching style or what was presented that allowed you to be able to kind of shift? Because you not only went from getting this to now really creating a platform to help others.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a coach now myself, which is amazing. What it was, I think it wasn't about just talking about the same stuff. Like, it wasn't about talking about how did you feel, what it wasn't about that. It was really acknowledging what space I was in, coming to an acceptance of that, but then moving forward. And I felt like I'd talked about it and talked about it and talked about it and talked about it for months, that I was stuck, burnt out, exhausted, overwhelmed. However, I wasn't really given any, I guess, tools and strategies that really helped me connect the dots to move forward. I just continued to stay in that pattern. So what I love then, what I now know about coaching is it's going from where you are and forward. It's not really about going and figuring out all of the things and looking back at your past and going all the way back to the past. It's more about, let's acknowledge where you're at and come to terms and acceptance with that. However, let's move forward. Yeah, future orientated.
Right. Wow. Okay. And that's interesting because there are a lot of therapeutic modalities that are solution focused that are about going from that. So I'm just kind of wondering now, I have so many questions, but we're not going to go there because that's irrelevant. But I just have so many questions about what type of modalities they were using with you in the therapeutic setting. But you were able to go into coaching and help move yourself from this place of being stuck and circling the drain, so to speak, to really being able to get to a point where you were able to take some actionable steps to get yourself to a better place. And what does that better place right now look like for you?
Oh my gosh. So I wake up each day now feeling like it's Christmas Day. That buzz and excitement and that pure just energy of oh my gosh, here we are. I wake up with this absolute excitement about life, and I have so much energy now. Whereas, when I was waking up in the past and during that time, I was like, here we go again. It was just that dread and that I don't want to do this. And I had no zest, passion, vitality for life. And now I have so much energy and so much passion. And I have so many opportunities have had and continue to have so many opportunities come my way with this new, and I like to call it, I'm in alignment. I'm in alignment with who I am at the core, with what I value now, and with my goals and my dreams. And that past version of me wasn't. I was a people pleaser. I was a perfectionist, and I was overcompensating in many areas of my life. And that was not the real me. So this is the real me, if that makes sense. That version of me was afraid, had a lot of fear about the world, didn't trust herself, and didn't value herself. So I really kind of worked on all of those elements to come back into alignment.
Okay. Wow. So a lot of self-work, clearly was done? Because I know we kind of started when we were talking about like, okay, you were overworked and then you ended up getting burned out, but I'm hearing a whole lot of other layers of things that were going on underneath as well that you were able to kind of deal with. Can you speak a little bit more about that? Because at first I was kind of understanding like, okay, yeah, we were working and you was drinking the Coke, but it seems like there was a lot of other stuff going on.
Yeah. But I was unconscious to it. I didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know that at the time that I was a people pleaser. I just thought that I was really nice to everyone and that I said yes all the time because I was helpful, and I wanted to do good by people. What I didn't realize was that behavior was coming from my complete lack of self-worth. And so I felt better. My happiness and my worth was always external. If everyone around me was okay and I did lots for them, then I could feel okay. Yeah. But I didn't realize it was just a really unconscious pattern and program that I had embodied. And this is the thing about, the type of coaching, that I now know is, that the imprint years are from ages 2 to 7. And I obviously imprinted some of these patterns like everyone does. We make our beliefs about ourselves and the world. And somewhere along the line, I came up with that I'm not worthy and I'm not good enough. And that manifested in me needing to overfunction and overcompensate. So whilst my husband was out of work and starting a new business, that just fueled that behavior. Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix this and I'm going to make it work and I'll look after everyone. It's all good. And in the meantime, I completely burnt myself out.
Yeah. Yeah. And burnout, it sucks, like, because a lot of times we get stuck in it. And a lot of times we don't realize how burned out we are until we truly take that step back. Like, I know I've dealt with significant burnout in my career a couple times, and I've had to just take pauses from doing therapy and working with people and do something else for a period of time. So I can definitely get that. But you have now created the Healthy, Happy Nurse, where you help nurses. Like you go and give back to them. Can you speak a little bit more about, just the organization itself and what you do and how you help nurses?
Yeah. So after my journey from, that rock bottom to getting that help and that shift and that transformation, I released a lot of excess weight because at that point in my life, I was so bloated and so swollen. And again, like you said before, you're unaware because you're so in it. But I didn't realize how different I looked and how frustrated I was, how irritated. And after that sort of big shift that I had in that transformation, I had a lot of my colleagues saying, "What have you done? You look so different, Michelle. Like, tell me what you're doing. You're showing up really confident at work. You're a different nurse. Like you're really calm and just everything about you is so different." And they said, "Can you help me?" Lots of people were messaging me saying, "I need you to help me," because I'd also documented my transformation a bit on Instagram, just sharing photos of my before and after and what was different in my life. And so I had a lot of people, followers and friends reaching out as well. And that really sparked something in me because I thought, well, hang on, if I have had that experience with burnout and not really able to change anything with those other modalities of help, maybe this is something that I can create for nurses, knowing that I know that it works, knowing that the steps that I took. So I started to document each step that I took and what that looked like. And I wrote a course. And I wrote an online course, packaged it up, put it online, and did some coaching certifications myself. Okay. And then I launched that in 2020 to yeah, for as the Healthy Happy Nurse, and now it's a 12-week program which I've taken hundreds of nurses through here in Australia, and it's magical. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. And it's so needed. I'm glad that you were able to take your experience and make it into something positive that could help other people, because what I find is I feel like nurses and teachers, those two professions, don't know how to say no, don't know how to take time off, the way that they should. You said you were working like 7 shifts, and I don't know what your shifts in Australia are like, but I know I've worked in the ED for a number of years during psych evals, and we worked 12-hour shifts. So I can't imagine if you're working 12-hour shifts over there for 7 shifts a week. Like, that's a lot. But a lot of times nurses can get addicted to the money. They can get addicted to, the certain lifestyle that it brings, and they forget to take care of themselves. So I'm glad that you have this kind of platform for them. When it comes to like the burnout piece, how do you kind of address that in the coaching?
Yeah, so I really look at where they are at in terms of what level of burnout, because there's 12 stages of burnout that typically most people would journey through at some point. So really look at where they're at. But most, my coaching is really about getting them to come back into alignment of their authentic selves. So who are you without that nurse label? And most people don't even know. And I'm like, what lights you up? Oh, I don't know. Like they just literally do not know themselves outside of the nurse. So it's coming back to who they are, what their core values are, and really coming back to regulate their nervous system again, because, those crazy hours and working overnight and not eating, throughout a shift because you just can't get a break, like that completely throws our nervous system into chaos. We're meant to have these stable blood sugar levels, and we're not meant to be fueling up on caffeine all day or energy drinks. So it's really about then in giving them empowering daily habits. And I also, address the drivers of their burnout. So what are those underlying unconscious patterns that are driving burnout? And most of the nurses, actually all of the nurses that I work with, either have those unconscious patterns of people pleasing, perfectionism, or that overcompensating behavior.
So it's really kind of getting them to tap into their identity outside of their role and assessing their values, which I feel like that's a theme for this season of the Self-Aware and Effed Up podcast, because I've had that question asked so many times, like, who are you outside of your role? And I think so many of us are caught up in what we do versus who we are. So if I were to ask you, and I'm going to ask you, who is Michelle outside of the founder of the Healthy Happy Nurse and outside of being a registered nurse? Who are you?
I am a deeply passionate and energetic person. I'm very intuitive. I love all things health, happiness, and nature. And I love my family, and I am just the biggest cheerleader for anyone that comes into my space. I'm like, go girl. I just, have such a growth mindset that I love celebrating, seeing people win at life. Yeah.
So I'm glad that you know yourself. It sounds like you've done a lot of work in grounding yourself and really redefining yourself, because I'm sure that if I had asked you that 10 years ago, that wouldn't have been the answer. And so I think it's,
I would have said, I'm a nurse and I'm a good nurse, that's all my brain would have to offer.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that sometimes. I had someone ask me, like, who are you? And I'm like, okay, I'm a therapist. Like, okay. And then it's like, okay, well, no, you help people. And he really kind of got me together on my own show. And I was like, all right, thank you, Nick. I appreciate you. But I think it was so important because sometimes we don't step outside of our roles and we just kind of, it becomes like performative. And so I love that you kind of stepped outside of it, because from what I, can see right now, you're mostly doing nursing and your business, or what is that even like? What is your day-to-day look like right now?
I left after 10 years of working in the emergency department. I decided I'd gradually gone from obviously working 7 days shifts a week. Our shifts were 8 and 10-hour shifts, so not 12 hours. So I gradually reduced my hours and reduced my hours and reduced my hours in that role, and I ended up leaving the emergency department in the public health system here in 2022.
Okay.
And I took a year and a half off to focus on my business and to focus on my coaching. And now I work casually, probably 1 day a week in occupational health and safety nursing, which is doing health checks I live in a mining region here in Australia. So the workers in those mines have health and fitness checks and assessments, and I do those, which is great. I love it.
Nice. I really love that for you. When you talk about working in the emergency department for as long as you did, like that's not healthy. Obviously, you know that, it can weigh on you, especially if you're working like in a trauma kind of hospital setting. I'm not sure but the emergency department, just in general, the things that you see coming in and out of there, I can only imagine.
Yeah. We're quite isolated, so everything and anything would come to us, and we were the only hospital in our region, so we were it. And a lot of my time in the emergency department was spent in the resus room, which is where all the trauma, where all the very sick people go, where it's very chaotic and you've got to be on the whole time, and so that in itself is really dysregulating. So that was me for 9 to 10 years.
That's a lot to kind of cope with and see for that long a period of time. I know like a lot of nurses start out in the ED, and then usually they try to get to the floor or get to a more stable kind of unit where you're able to not have to do the ripping and running that it takes to work in the emergency department. So I mean, 10 years is definitely a good amount of time to kind of be in that setting. But I do want to kind of shift gears a little bit. I know you shared a lot about you personally and your journey, but I want to know, how do you personally connect with the idea of being self-aware and fucked up?
Yeah, so I think for me, it's really identifying those rock bottom moments and like fully not identifying them, but just owning those moments where I had drank 2-3 bottles of wine and was on the floor, passed out because I couldn't cope. And, I had a lot of guilt and shame about that for a long time, especially when I was burnt out. I was, just trying to hide from the fact that I was not coping. And, now having the self-awareness that I do, it's okay. It's okay for me to acknowledge and accept that and not want to really stuff that away in my past anymore because of the guilt and shame. So it's like I can own that and I can talk about it now, and I'm, very much an open book. And I know that what I went through is now helping so many other people.
Yeah. That's definitely amazing. A lot of times we want to hide those not so pretty parts of our lives. And the thing is, it paints the picture of perfection to people who are going through things in their current season that we've gone through. And so I think that openness and transparency is really what this podcast is all about. It's about, like, I'm a therapist, but when I tell you my life is so fucked up on any given day, of any given week because
yes,
we're human. We all experience things so differently, but we all have those shared similarities. And so I love that you're honest and open. And I love that it has helped you help so many other people because, as I said, nurses, that's a population, like we rely on them so much to save lives. You know, I get doctors, they have their place and obviously there's certain things that they do, but the nurses are the backbone, you know, and they take care of the things that the doctors don't want to do, you know, for sure. And so I think that population definitely needs the type of support and care that you provided with. You mentioned that you serve and you coach women in Australia. Are you just limited to Australia or do you work with people outside of your region?
And people outside, I've worked with, I think 1 or 2 nurses now, 2 nurses from the States. Yeah. Nice. So that was very exciting when I branched out of Australia. So yeah, no, my work is for anyone that resonates, that, you know, I connect with as well. And I know that I can help. So yeah, definitely open to working. I've had people reach out to me from Canada, from England. So yeah, it's been really beautiful the last, you know, little while as I spread the word, I guess. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And I'm glad that you are outside of Australia as well, because I know a lot of our listeners are based in the US and I want to make sure that they know how to contact you. So do you mind sharing how people can connect with you if they want to learn more about your organization or use your coaching services?
Yeah. So I'm on Facebook at The Healthy Happy Nurse, or Instagram is where I hang out. And that is at MichelleGordon_coach.
Okay. You got a website too, or?
Yes. The Healthy Happy Nurse. I think it's .com.au. I should know that. But yeah, mostly Instagram or Facebook. And then I send people over to my website. So yeah, That's my first port of call.
Awesome. Well, you guys, please make sure that you connect with Michelle. Michelle, I thank you so much for your time today. All of the information of how you can connect with Michelle will be in the description of this episode. Also, make sure that you guys follow me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.